The new event, Celestial Showdown, is the fourth Inomoto New Year's event that we have in the game. And with it, we have 3 new characters from that nation. With this year being the year of the tiger, it's no surprise that we welcome the leader of the tiger clan.
Shingen
Is a limited 5-star win-axe defense unit and bears many similarities to his real-life counterpart,
武田信玄
a legendary
大名
during the
戦国
period. With him rebelling against his oppressive father, his title as the Tiger of Kai, his great domestic skills, as well as his heavy armor that plays into his sick design in-game. In-game, he is the only win unit that can inflict Scorch Rend, and has 2 unique effects that play into his overall kit. His playstyle can be simplified as reducing incoming damage with force strikes, using skill 1, and tapping non-stop. The latter reminiscent of the unlimited bonking from Ramona's first skill. He also has the brand new burst gambit mechanic, which is also introduced with the other 2 new units from the event. With that out of the way, let's get into his kit.
Shingen
Has a unique force strike that works more like a sword unit force strike. This force strike can reduce incoming damage significantly, with the exception of high dragon trial opening blasts. Also, while having the battle fervor effect, his 3rd combo in his attack sequence will spawn 1 tornado in front of
Shingen
while his 5th combo spawns 4. The tornadoes will pursue enemies, and each deals 50% wind damage. His first skill
不倫火山
has a cost of 2040 SP.
Shingen
Will begin to prepare for the attack, and when he strikes, this skill will deal 1600% damage to surrounding enemies, and apply a brand new debuff in the form of a burst gambit called Tiger's Burst, which has a gambit counter of 30. This skill will also inflict Storm Lash. He is immune to knockback, while preparing and executing this skill. While this attack is being prepared, tapping the screen will deal additional hits of 800% damage per tap, which is also dependent on how many stacks of the veteran's metal effect he currently has. This skill also grants additional effects per tap. The first tap grants a 10% strength reduction to enemies for 30 seconds. The second tap inflicts Scorch Rend, that interestingly deals wind damage instead of flame damage. The 3rd tap restores his own HP with 35% potency, and grants him 10 seconds of knockback immunity as well as the battle fervor effect for 30 seconds, while all stacks of veteran's metal will be consumed. When this skill is used, while having the battle fervor effect, the veteran's metal stacks will not be consumed, though the battle fervor effect will not be re-granted. When his burst gambit is activated, it restores HP to everyone in the team with 140% potency. This is an incredibly complicated skill, but let's address the elephant in the room, the burst gambit. How it works is that when the counter of the gambit reaches 0, the gambit's effect will be applied.
Shingen
Has a counter of 30, and can only decrement by inflicting debuffs, each reducing the counter by 1. For every reduction performed by an attack, that particular attack will enter a cooldown of 2 seconds, before being able to reduce the counter again. After the burst is activated, the enemy will be immune to all forms of gambit applications for 5 seconds. Burst gambit is not affected by energy and inspiration, and its potency depends on the applying unit when the gambit was initially cast. It can also be resisted by increased debuff resistance, and is not applicable to enemy construct/summons that have hit counters. I might make a separate video about this in the future, as this mechanic is even more complicated than strength and defense amps. Back to this skill. This skill has a low cost relative to what it does, dealing good damage, while also providing different forms of support to the team. This skill alone can reduce the gambit counter by 3, through Storm Lash, Scorch Rend, and Strength debuff applications. The optimal performance of this skill is dependent on veteran's metal, which can be obtained easily by taking damage. Overall, this skill is an impressive and complicated skill, and befitting for a commanding veteran of war. Thankfully, his second skill is a lot more simple. Fearless Tiger has a cost of 7500 SP. It grants
Shingen,
a defense amp, which has a level 3 maximum team amp level, as well as granting the veteran's metal effect. When this skill is used, while having the battle's fervor effect, it will instead grant a defense amp, a 10% increase in maximum HP, and 3 seconds of 70% incoming damage reduction. This is another source of veteran's metal for
Shingen,
and is a powerful all-defensive self-buffing skill for him. Overall, this skill does its job very well as a defensive buffer for
Shingen. Shingen
has the standard defense co-ability for axe units, accompanied by a full bog resist chain co-ability with a team defense amp as its requirement. The latter co-ability is an excellent co-ability for him, especially when dealing with Sealer, and gets even better if there is another defense amp applicator in the team, in order to maintain greater uptime on the bog resistance. By default,
Shingen
is resistant to freeze. This doesn't mean anything significant in the current state of the game, but he basically has dual resistances thanks to his aforementioned chain co-ability. For his abilities, we'll start with one that we actually talked about earlier, his Tiger's Tenacity. Apart from the unique properties of his Force Strike and his Tornadoes, while having the Battle Fervor effect, he is able to get 2 stacks of the Veteran's Metal effect when taking damage. This effect can stack up to 3 times, and has a 20-second cooldown. This results in
Shingen
having 2 sources of Veteran's Metal, with another being from his second skill, allowing increased damage output for Shingen for his first skill and indirectly improving his overall performance thanks to increased frequency of gaining battle fervor. His last ability, Tiger's Ferocity, it increases strength and damage dealt by 20% and 50% respectively, while having the battle fervor effect. With multiple sources of veteran's metal that are required to gain battle's fervor, it can be confidently said that this ability will proc more frequently. Though interestingly, these both increase damage output, but are calculated within different parts of the damage formula, as shown here. I'm not 100% sure how this works, but this is my gist of it. With his kit out of the way, let's see what can we equip on this war veteran. He has heavy emphasis on his veteran's metal and battle fervor effects, as they both boost him offensively. All while having good defensive capabilities thanks to his force strikes, defense amps, and his burst gambit. A well-balanced unit that is also self-sustainable. To enhance all of these capabilities, some skill haste will work, but not too much, as he doesn't need an excessive amount to reach better performance. This can be followed by any other offensive abilities that work for axe units, which excludes flurry abilities, unless there is a combo time chain co-ability present in the team. For his dragon of choice, as all Wind Clan leaders have a soul pact with a dragon, we'll first look at his pack dragon.
不動明王
Or thick dragon that's incredibly obsessive towards her partner, to the point of being a bit creepy, kinda like how Chelsea is to Luca. Back to her overall compatibility with her master. She is also similar to him in terms of having both offensive and defensive capabilities. Her mantra of compassion can nullify damage up to 100% of the user's HP twice, and the mantra of wrath can increase damage against water enemies, as well as compensating for her master's slow attack speed by granting a 10% attack rate increase. This is paired with 70% strength increase as well as a skill that complements her ability perfectly. Overall, she is
Shingen's
best in slot dragon in terms of playstyle compatibility. Of course, any other offense-based dragon will work on him too. For his team composition, as he is kind of a jack of all trades, he can fit into any team that has at most one main DPS character. A particularly good team for wind units is the Templar Ho team, where he can become more tanky, as well as take advantage of Wimprints with offensive double buff abilities. As for his Wimprint setup, a standard axe offense build will work just fine for him. There's this new portrait Wimprint system that I'm not very familiar with, but that lot can be fitted with any suitable print that you are able to get your hands on. With everything out of the way, let's conclude this video about Shingen. Shingen is definitely a powerful addition to the roster, providing good capabilities in offense, defense, and support. He himself is able to dish out good damage, while being able to hold his own ground, while healing and supporting his team, an omnipotent war veteran. With all of his strengths, there are weaknesses that are present in his kit. The first being his low damage output when compared to main DPS units. Despite his good damage output, when he has veteran's metal and battle fervor, it is still lower than most units that specialize purely on raw damage. This is why he shouldn't be treated as a full-on main DPS. The second being his incredibly complicated kit. This may be no issue for veteran players, but for beginners that just so happen to obtain him, it may take more time to understand and get used to his kit. I myself had to read up his kit and even test him out over and over again to get an idea of how his kit works. Overall, Shingen is an incredible unit and a great addition to the current playable win clans in the game. Now go out there and rejoice the fact that all 12 win clan leaders have been shown in the event cutscene, giving us ideas on who they each belong to and what element would they possibly be. We are still waiting for the rabbit, dragon, snake, dog, and goat win clan leaders to make their debut. I'm more interested on who would be the leader of the dragon clan. That's all from me. Moga out.